I'm right. The podcast that uncovers the origin stories of some of the biggest names in sports, media, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. Nick Durst here along with Joe Calabrese. And Joe, our guest today, he's no stranger to the TV. He's on his second show, his second reality show in as many years, I think. So we'll get into all that. But why don't you let everybody know who we have with us here on this episode of I'm Right.
For everybody watching at home, you've seen him compete on The Amazing Race. You've seen him compete now on the Challenge. He's a former Marine, which I did not know that. So we're always happy to increase our reality TV guest list, and this is a good one. It's gonna be a really good one. We had to reschedule, hammer him down, but we finally are able to get him on. We welcome Yeremi Hykel to the show. Yeremi. First off, you're looking great. I see the
Appreciate
cat
it,
there.
man.
We had a quick talk about the cat before the show started. The cat can join, can stay in for the whole episode if he so chooses. But what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm not doing too bad, man. I appreciate you guys welcoming me and my son here on the podcast. I love what you guys do. Super excited to share my adventures and my stories with you guys and my experience. So yeah, let's dig right in, y'all.
All right, Yeremy, you seem like a pretty Zen guy. I can only imagine your morning routine. You get Zen. You could probably go for like a 30-mile run. But when you do eventually get to your phone, what's the first app you're checking every day?
Oh, dude, the first chat is probably my messages, man. Like early in the morning, I have a mentor. He's his name is Zach, and he's in the Navy. He's stationed in Japan. And every time I wake up, he's got a message that's just sitting there for me. It's usually like, "Good morning, man. I hope you have a great day. Crush the day, do something that you've never done, challenge yourself in some kind of way." So I usually always check my phone in the morning, and I try to respond to him as much as I can because we don't really get to too much talking throughout the day because we're in very reversed time zones.
Yep.
So that's definitely the first one in the morning, y'all.
So I tend to be, I guess, a spiritual person between the two. So anytime we have a fellow Zen type of person on with, we go into detail about all that other fun stuff. Now, for you, are you into, any other stuff related to, I guess, like meditative practices and all that? And are you in tune with spiritual stuff? Are you into metaphysical stuff, astrology? Because I am, and we always like to talk like zodiac signs and all that stuff.
Dang, that's pretty cool, bro. I'm gonna be super honest with you. A lot of people do tell me that I do come off very zen, or I feel like I give like hippie vibes or something like that. But I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm not super spiritual. Um,
Hmm.
I like incense, but I don't do tons of yoga. I'm not into astrology very much.
Hmm.
Um, I guess I just smoke a lot of weed, really. But I like to just be chill, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I guess my type of meditation is usually what I do, like in my physicality when I'm training for things, right? Like, I find typically how I structure my life and my goals is I will find something to train for physically that I feel um, is just going to be a challenge. It might be something that I don't think that I'm confident at doing. I think it's going to be something that's going to be like excruciatingly hard or something like that. So I will choose it. I'll buy it. I'll set it as a goal for myself. Um, and then I feel like most of the meditation or kind of like just the me time that I take with myself is training for a lot of these different things. So that's really what my life looks like and how close I get to some sort of spirituality, I think.
That's all right. Do you actually know your sign off the top of your head?
Yeah, I think I'm a Virgo. I was born August 25th.
Ooh, that's my aunt's birthday. Very good.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah, I'd
it's a
love
good birthday
that.
to have.
It's a very, very good birthday to have. She's highly intelligent. Did you consider yourself smart?
I consider myself smart in some things, man. I think I'm smart like everybody is in some areas, and a little less smart in some areas. But I can't know everything, so it's always a continuous learning for me.
So you have that very unique look, right, with the long hair and the tattoos. They say that a lot of emotional intelligence is stored in the hair. It's a very Native American way of looking at everything. But what is the meaning behind the long hair and all the tattoos that you have?
Nice, dude. Well. That is actually pretty that's pretty I guess similar to how I ended up growing the hair out and kind of how my journey went. I started deciding to grow the hair out when I was in the Marines, right? In the Marines you have to have clean cut, like zero on the sides, maximum three on top. I was always getting in trouble in the Marines because I was always pushing the regulations. I was growing my hair out like longer than it was supposed to be, so I was always getting in trouble, but I just always wanted to have longer hair. And when I was in there, I told all my Marines, I was like, man, when I get out, I'm gonna grow Tarzan hair for sure. And they were like, all right, dude, can't wait to see it. And that's exactly what I did. But in the journey of transitioning from being like a full-time active duty Marine to getting back in the civilian life, I was going to college and like for a good like 2 to 3 year period after I got out, I was pouring myself a lot into, like you said, emotional intelligence. When you're a Marine, you're just conditioned to suppress a lot of things. You're conditioned to think a certain way, to want and value different aspects of life that are very in tune with like a warrior mentality or a warrior life. But when you get out and you're no longer in the Marine Corps anymore, that mindset doesn't really suit you anymore. So I was doing a lot of work on myself, a lot of introspection on figuring out a lot of things that happened in my life and how they kind of made me who I am. So I really, really poured a lot or invested a lot into my emotional intelligence, which I think helped develop me into who I am today, which is somebody I like to, I definitely take pride in having emotional intelligence and being a huge advocate for men to get to that point where they can have the same thing.
So what went into your decision to enlist in the Marines? Was it something you always were looking towards? Was it something where, they come to the cafeteria when you're in high school and you started talking to them? Talk to us about the process of enlisting and what it was like being a Marine.
Yeah, man. So it definitely started. I'm originally from Santa Fe, New Mexico. And my parents got into kind of like a sticky divorce, and we ended up moving to Texas when I was 12. Um, and I played like every sport under the sun in New Mexico growing up, right? I was a super, super big athlete. But then when I moved to Texas, I moved to a small town called Buda. Everybody in the school that I was in knew each other growing up. They all knew each other, so I was like a complete outsider. I like stopped playing sports. I didn't have a ton of friends. Like I was kind of getting bullied the year that I moved here. And it like definitely hurt my self-confidence. So when I decided to go into high school, I wanted to have more of a sense of community again. Um, and I decided to join ROTC, but at our school, it was the Marine Corps ROTC. And I did it for 4 years when I was in high school, and I did not really like it. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I didn't like it that much. It was kind of ass. We had to wear uniforms like during the week and shit. I don't know. I think I just like hard things, but I kind of don't like hard things in the same time. Like I don't know. Like they were just so like they're so rough. They're so like aggressive, like Marines in general, right? Their demeanor and how they come across. Um, and I was a very like timid kid growing up, right? So I was very, very much introverted. I was a very timid kid. So coming into contact with that kind of persona was definitely felt pretty threatening to me. So I didn't really feel insanely comfortable in it. But towards the end of high school, me and my family, we didn't have like much money at all. I didn't excel in academics. I also didn't play any sports in high school, so I didn't have any opportunity to go to college by any means. And I didn't have any ambitions to join a trade or do anything like that. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to join the service. I'm going to join the Marine Corps, and I want to go into like the hardest service. So I chose the Marines, and within the Marines, I wanted to go to what I felt was going to be the hardest like MOS within it, so that in my head I could get the hardest experience that I could get as like an 18-year-old kid. Um, and and I felt that if I could put myself in that situation where I could get that hardest experience, then it would help develop me into the best man that I could be following that experience. So I decided to attempt to join the Marine Corps infantry. Um, but it did not work out that way because the infantry fills up really, really fast in the Marines. All the Marines want to be in infantry. So I ended up not being able to join the infantry. And I chose the next thing that I could, which was combat support. And I was assigned into an artillery unit in the Marine Corps. And that's how I ended up getting in the Marine Corps. And while I was in there, um, the Marines is such a an interesting space. I think it's a great space for young men to be in some ways because when you're young, you just want to drink your face off. You just want to be rowdy. You want to do all these crazy things. Um, and you can do them in the Marines, but you have like a safety net, right? You have a wall, you have a base around you, and they're like, you can do whatever you want, but you're gonna show up at 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning because we still have PT, we still have formation. So um, it gives you kind of these rigid parameters to follow. And it definitely creates you into a harder person, a person with grit, which I think is extremely important to have for sure. It really has like a sense of brotherhood while you're in there, and it teaches you, I guess, like how to keep your composure, but also to like not like how to get through things that other people would think are like insanely difficult, but like a sense of perspective. I think that's probably single-handedly the most important quality that the Marines can give in a beneficial way to any former Marine because a lot of shit sucks, Nick and Joseph. It is ass in there at times, right? And but the best thing about it is once you get through all those times, when you come out, like I don't think I'll ever do anything harder than what the Marines ever made me do. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And I think having that perspective now as a man, I really can appreciate it.
We appreciate that perspective. Uh, and now you're back. But so school, right? You said you weren't really that much into academics. However, you did go to school. You pursued some form of higher education, attended the University of Hawaii at Manoa, Central Texas College, Texas State University. You studied business. What was the working idea there that you just wanted to kind of pursue something that you felt like could maybe be applied, at some point later in your life?
Yeah, when I was at this weird point in my Marine Corps career. I was like, yeah, at probably my 2.5 year mark. I was deployed. I was on a deployment in Japan, and when I was there, like this might sound kind of like bizarre or something, but like when you're in the Marine Corps, like you're crafted to be a warrior, right? A war fighter, right? Your entire being revolves around being that. So all of your values start to become rooted in that, right? And one of them is being like a seasoned Marine, right? Going to battle, going to fight, going to war, and that's something that you want to do, like that you want to do when you're in the Marine Corps, especially in a combat MOS, right? Like you're not someone, and you don't gain the respect that other people get unless you've gone through war or battle or combat, right? And that's what I was pursuing when I was in there. But I got to this kind of like I don't know existential crisis, and kind of in the middle of it, where I was like, damn, our deployment got moved up, and as a result, we missed the deployment that was going to go to Syria. So I was like, dang, I'm not getting the experience that I originally wanted to get out of this. So I contemplated joining MARSOC, which is the Marine Raiders, which is the special forces team of the Marine Corps. So I could attempt to maybe go get that experience, but they required you to re-enlist if you got selected, and you had to re-enlist for 4 or 5 years. And I thought to myself, I was like, dude, you don't even like day-to-day life in here. Like this shit hikey sucks. And I was like, you think about re-enlisting for like another 5 years? That's crazy. Um, so I just looked at it realistically and I was like, nah, that's not gonna work. I finished up my deployment and I came back and I decided that I was going to get out. And at the time, My mother was suffering with schizophrenia and bipolarism, and she lived in New Braunfels, Texas. And I made a plan that I was going to move back to go to Texas State University and pursue a business degree so I could be closer to my mom and I could help support her while she was working through a lot of her mental health issues. And I decided that the last year that I was in the Marine Corps that I was going to join Central Texas College, and I did night school for about 8 months to get like 15 transfer credits so that I could get accepted into Texas State. Um, and yeah, and the Marines they didn't support it at all. Once I told them I was like, hey, I'm not gonna stay in. I'm not gonna continue on with the Marine stuff that you want me to. I'm not gonna continue to take more and more responsibility. They were essentially like, all right, well, fuck you. Like we don't care about you anymore. And I was like, all right, that's crazy. So they just they definitely treat you differently. They definitely don't support your decision to help yourself. Um, and that definitely like grew a big chip on my shoulder at the end of the Marine Corps. I kind of like very dangerously, I kind of started to develop this mentality where I was just like, like F the world, like F everybody, like nobody cares about me. The only person that is gonna get me to where I want to go is gonna be myself. Um, and that created a very closed off version of who I was, somebody who didn't like want to let anybody in. I didn't even care to tell people about what my plans were doing because I didn't want them to say that I was gonna fail or I wasn't gonna be able to do it. I was just like, dude, I don't care to tell any of y'all. I'm just gonna do this. But I did then meet my mentor, who was a chaplain in the Navy, and he was essentially the first person to ever like believe in me and also offer me help. He was a dean of students at a college, and he was like, Yeremi, it seems like you have a really good head on your shoulders. It sounds like you have a lot of ambition and you know what you want to do, and you don't need anybody to do it. But I would like to offer you my mentorship, and I'd like to be here every step of the way to help you, if that's something that you want. And at that time and place, I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I was like, I don't know what that is. Nobody in my life has offered me help before, so this sounds kind of weird. But I accepted, and he's been my mentor for the last 5 years, and he helped create a routine and a discipline that I used in my academic career that helped me excel exceptionally well. And I graduated with him and because of him um, with a bachelor's in business marketing.
Very good. So you took a little piece of your marine life, a little piece of the academic life, a little bit of that motivation coming home, to take care of your mom. My father's bipolar, so I certainly relate to you in that sense. You're also a certified firefighter.
I don't know about a certified firefighter. I don't know about that. Um, what does that even mean?
Lots of fires, you and your brother.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, in that area, most definitely. Yep. There have been a lot of fires I've had to put out between me and him in our relationship to date. But we've been able to work through it a lot. Emotional intelligence is a huge part of that. Um, and not getting to the point where you're just like, all right, I'm gonna hold a grudge forever and lose out on all these years of a relationship that you love. So figuring out how to put your pride to the side and focus on what truly matters in the long run.
Well, like I said with my father before, he had a little bit of an estranged relationship with my uncle. His brother had some friends through the years who've had some estranged relationships with their brothers. Always seems like time heals wounds for most. But applying for the Amazing Race with your brother, Liam, you did that in order not only to compete, but to repair that relationship. So talk about the experience and talk about how did you apply for the show? Did they recruit you and find you guys? How'd that work out?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting kind of story, I guess, because it started really when I was in Hawaii. I was going to the University of Hawaii, Manoa, and I had gone on a hike with a friend of mine who had like her own friends and stuff. And I met this guy. His name is Travis Long, and he competed on Big Brother. Um, and I didn't even really become super good friends with him, but we followed each other on Instagram, and a couple years later, or not even a couple years, it was probably a couple months. A casting producer reached out to me to apply for Big Brother. not The Amazing Race. So the very first show that I ever applied for was Big Brother, and I didn't get on it. Didn't go anywhere. So I was just like, all right, I'm gonna just continue to go to college. And then like a year after that, they came back to me for The Amazing Race. And at that point in my life, I didn't really have anybody that I had like a really crazy synergy with, um, that was willing to do something like this. Um, but I knew that the dynamic that I had with my brother, Liam, was really, really great. We were both very charismatic around each other. Like being around each other, our presence kind of brought out the goofiest sides of both of us. Um, and we were even still able to have that, even though we had a lot of baggage surrounding our relationship. So I kind of called him up and I was like, "Hey man, like, would you be willing to, go through this casting process with me? Would you want to like try this?" And he was like, "Yeah, dude, I'll do that. Like, that sounds cool." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So we started going through the casting process, and we got probably like past like the first or second interview, and then we had to kind of like fill out these forms about our relationship. And his was a little different than mine was, but mine kind of highlighted how his was kind of like talking about how we've had like a really good relationship for like years and we've been really close brothers, but mine kind of highlighted a lot more of like the fact that we didn't, that there was a lot of issues that we've had in our relationship through the last like 5 years and we haven't been super solid. So that came out and we had to talk about it a lot. And it was the first time that we ever talked about that side of our relationship ever in our lives. And it was extremely, extremely difficult. We was on Zoom like here and we had to, it was like the first time in my life that I saw him talk about the things that happened between us and how difficult it was for him. So I came to him after and I was like, "Hey, dude, we should talk about this, you know, privately before we talk about it in front of millions of people." And he was like, "Yeah, I think so for sure." So we really talked about it in a lot of depth and we we buried the hatchet a lot. And then it just like it healed. So it felt like if for the first time in our entire life in our relationship that we were able to have like a working stable like team. And that's what we created and what we formed going into the Amazing Race, and that's what we wanted to have. We wanted to um I guess we wanted to show everybody that this is such a common thing in so
Mhm.
many people's lives, that they have estranged relationships with so many different people, and we harvest so much resentment and anger and grudge holding for people that truly we love so much. And at the end of the day, both people want the same thing, which is that love and that relationship back. You just need to both be willing to put your differences aside and focus on that. And if you can do that, you truly can have back that relationship that you want.
Absolutely. So, preparing for the show, did you watch Amazing Race previous seasons? And as you're on the show, was there any cheating going on? Not by you guys, but do other teams try to cheat, shave some time off their legs and whatnot to get an advancement in the next leg of the race?
Yeah, we definitely did study. We studied, we watched a ton of seasons. We were like dissecting challenges, dissecting routes, different strategies on how to do better at the race. Although the race is its own beast, there's not a lot of studying you can do to get through that kind of experience. But while we were competing, I will say I don't think that there was any cheating that took place from other teams, I will say, but I would say there's more so of like things that kind of happen on like the production side that feel like is they give an unfair advantage to other teams. I'm not even going to say they give an
Yep.
unfair advantage to specific teams. It's just kind of randomized. Um,
Depends on the,
and
the,
we
the
just kind
story
of,
they're trying to tell for that episode, I guess, with the background
yeah.
stories.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes like, there's 10 rickshaws or 10, 10 vehicles you got to get in, but like one of the 10, the driver is either not from that area or it doesn't have a full
Right.
tank of gas or they're just not going to take you where you ask them to take you.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And again, I'm not going to sit here and like claim to know that that's what's happening because I don't know behind the scenes. I don't know how the game works at all, right? But it was just kind of hard because when you're putting all of your energy, all of your focus and determination into a game like this, and then things kind of happen like that, you're like, I don't know, it kind of makes you feel like you're not worthy. Like, why
Raise
did
the
this happen to
eyebrow.
me? You know? So
Yeah.
yeah, there's kind of stuff like that that kind of
Makes
happen.
sense. So, Jeremy, we kind of referenced it at the top, but you're an ultra marathon runner. So, when did you start doing that? What's the longest distance you've ever ran? And how many miles you're running per year? And did any of that help you for the amazing race when you're running around the cities?
Nice. Sweet. So I got into ultra marathoning. I guess I'll preface this with saying that I got into running because for the vast majority of my younger adult life, I was a bodybuilder and a powerlifter. Um, I started powerlifting when I was in high school because my older brother wanted to try it out, and I know it probably doesn't seem like it now, but at that point, I was a very skinny guy, and I was not a powerlifter. I was probably like a high jumper, that kind of stature. But I got into powerlifting with him, so. I actually injured myself several times doing powerlifting because you're just lifting like these immense amounts of weight. Um, but I kind of held on to that style of training until I got out of the Marine Corps. And then my mentor was, you know, telling me when I was getting ready to get in school, he was like, "Hey, dude, you've been doing bodybuilding and powerlifting for so long. Like, you are so comfortable in that space. Like, I think that you should start pursuing an activity, a physical activity that you don't think that you're good at. You need to start challenging yourself and not just continuing to do the things that you know you're good at." And I was like, okay, well, I used to tell him that I wasn't very good at running because I really wasn't the greatest runner when I was in the Marine Corps. I was just like this big old meatball that didn't train running very much except for whenever we did in the Marines. And he was like, all right, well, maybe you start training running more and see what you can do. And I was like, okay. So I started that probably in 2020 and I started doing Spartan races. So I was doing these because running by itself is awful. So I was like, well, let me mix it with like obstacles because that's pretty fun. I like doing obstacles. So I did the Spartan races and I started moving up their list. And there's like the Spartan Sprint, which is like 3 miles with like 15 obstacles. The next one is the Spartan Super, which is like 8 miles, like 25 obstacles. Then there's the Beast, which is a half marathon with like 30 obstacles. And then the next one is the Spartan Ultra, which is 32 miles with like 60 obstacles. Um, and I was just working my way up over the years since 2020. And I even remember when I just did the Beast, um, which was the half marathon. I remember finishing it and I was like, that was the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. Like it took every atom of my being to finish that race. Like my legs were so cramped up, like my entire body was so cramped up, like I felt like I was dead. And I sat at that finish line and I watched uh, some other competitors go by that had like these purple jerseys and it said ultra on them. And I asked my friend, I was like, what the hell is that? And he was like, those are the ultra runners. And and he was like, yeah, this like we just finished the first loop, the 32 mile. And he was like, they have another loop to go. And I
Oh,
was like, I was like, there's no way. I was so blown away. And in my head at that moment, I was like, I could never do that. Like, especially at the state that I was in at that time. Um, And then a couple weeks ago, I was at school, just at the library, probably like studying or doing some homework, and then I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? I think I want to try to do that ultra. I'll just sign up for it, and then create a training plan and see if I can get to see if I can condition my body to push itself to complete that. That's what I did for the next year, and I completed the Spartan Race Ultra, and it was amazing and
so what was that?
insane.
That was like 64 miles with
That one was
obstacles?
32 miles.
Okay.
That was the first time that I did that one. and I finished it. And then the following year, I did it again with the kid that I mentor. And after that was done, I felt like I had enough confidence in myself to be able to do ultras at least at the 30-mile range. So then I was like, okay, I want to start scaling it up. I created a goal that I want to finish like a 100-mile ultra marathon. So the middle was going to be a 60-mile ultra marathon, and I found one here in Texas called the Desert Wolf 100K that I just competed in probably 2 months ago. And that one was 62 miles, a 62-mile trail race through Texas, and I finished that one. Um,
All right.
that
It's
one was
impressive as
fucking
hell.
How long did it take you to do 62 miles?
18 hours.
Wow.
Oh,
And I'm telling y'all, it's like,
How did you stay hydrated? You have that little backpack with the water thing for the mouth, or
yeah.
how that work?
So I wore a camelback. Um, I wore a camelback. I also wore kind of a waist satchel. Um, I had a lot of sodium tablets, pickle juice capsules, or bottles. I had like a carb packets, like goos. You eat a lot of goos for quick carbs, while you're out there. I would transition between having like a camelback full of water with electrolytes, and then once I would finish that, I would then fill it up with complete water because you can't just drink electrolytes. You have to drink both while you're doing that. And I cycled in and out of that. And there was essentially there was like a 15-mile loop and then another 15-mile loop. And in between it was your HQ aid station. That's where my mom was. That's where Liam was. That's where all my friends were, who were aiding me, who were taking care of me. They were wrapping my feet up, my toes, um, helping to put my feet in ice water. They were giving me like bigger sustenance. So like on the road, I'm eating goos and carbs. Like,
Yeah.
but at that main one, I'm eating sandwiches, uh,
Right. So it
Uncrustables.
sounds like, on the ultra marathon, there's some sort of checkpoint or like a home base essentially. So I'm curious.
Mm.
I mean, obviously that makes sense there, but I'm curious, like with the Amazing Race or the challenge, like when nature calls, you go on the side of the road and you go to the bathroom. Like, what do you have to, right?
100%. Yeah, dude. Yeah. If you gotta go, you go there. It's very common in ultra marathons and in marathons in general to fucking shit yourself while you're going. I don't personally think that you need to do that. Honestly, I think you can feel it coming, and I think you should just sit your ass in the woods for a little bit. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
some people, they're just dogs, and they just want to
Mhm.
dog through poopy pants, I guess. Not
That's
me though. I don't do that. Just saying. Um, but it's hard. There's so many different elements. I will say one of my strategies is taking Imodium tablets that suppress the need to do that, and they lasted the entire time through that ultra. I'm telling you, I didn't have to go number two at all for 18 hours straight.
all right. What are you eating? You eating it all that morning before you start that race?
Yeah, dude, I had it was the night before I ate a lot. I had like a big carb load.
Carb it up.
I think I ate like a fucking pizza or something like that. That sounds terrible, I know, but you need the carbs.
yeah, I
And
was gonna say you need that extra energy.
yeah,
Now are you bringing like fruits and stuff with you, like in your bag? Like do you have like a banana or something in case like you cramp up or something like that?
yeah. So that's what those pickle juices are for, right? There are sporadic aid stations throughout the ultra marathon course, and they do. I'm telling y'all, they do take care of us. They got banana slices there. They got oranges. They have chips if you need them. They have salty things. They have like a jug full of water. They got a jug full of pickle juice. They had cooked bacon. At one point, I like stuffed my face with bacon because I hadn't eaten in like 3 hours, and then I put a bunch of bacon in my pockets. And they were like, "Are you putting bacon in your pockets?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm dying." And they were like, "That's valid. You do whatever you need to do to get through this." And I was like, "I will do that." Um,
Yeah.
so they do have sporadic areas like that where they do feed you and they have all that stuff. But I kept pickle juice on me because if you do feel a cramp, um, cramps can completely paralyze you
Yeah.
and they can crush your entire performance. If you let a cramp go too far, it'll just completely disable you. And you'll like, I mean, when you're doing ultra marathons, you'll see people like as you're running, it's weird. It's like a battlefield. You'll see them just laying on the side of the floor and they just can't move because of a cramp and stuff like that. And The community takes care of each other. If you have enough extra pickle juice, you'll give it to them. And a pickle juice is like an instantaneous like relief to cramps. It'll get rid of them really, really fast.
Good to know.
So I kept them strapped on me. Like if I was ever in a section of that ultra marathon where I didn't have a pickle juice, it was pretty constant anxiety because I was like, if I do get into a cramp right now, there's no getting out of it. I don't have anything on me.
Yeah, makes sense. So let's talk about you come off Amazing Race, you wait months and months, it airs. So obviously people are learning more about you as the show goes on. You and your brother, you put on a good show. You obviously didn't win. So fast forward a little bit here. Were you surprised at all to get contacted for the challenge coming off the Amazing Race? Had you watched the show before? Were you familiar with it? And what did you do to prepare for the show? Obviously, you always ran, but is there anything else you did to prepare for going on the challenge?
Nice, nice. Great. We're great question, man. And yeah, I was super surprised. After the Amazing Race was done and I even complicated or contemplated there being a life for me in reality TV. The challenge was always at the top of my list. It was kind of like a dream show, to be honest, because it's amazing. You know what I mean? Like it's incredible the production value of it. The challenges are insane. The competitors are cutthroat. Like that's a place that you go to compete. In my head, that was the closest thing that we have to a modern day gladiator pit, like the Coliseum is the challenge. And I coming from the Marines, I've always, I attract myself to shit like that, right? And I remember when they reached out for me for it, I was blown away. I had it in my mind when you watch the challenge and you see rookies that are coming in. Um, I feel like most times they're top competitors of their show. They've either been runners up, they won their
Yeah.
show, Survivor, Big Brother, Love Island, whatever it might be. They've all done really, really well. So when I got the invitation to come, I had like imposter syndrome. I was like, I don't know why they're inviting me to come because I didn't do very well on my show. And that was very much an insecurity for me coming into the show. Um, but when it came to training, I really locked in. My best friend, me and him actually joined the Marine Corps together. He's my roommate, and he did intelligence in the Marines, so he's incredibly smart, and he's a huge like tactician and strategist. So for months, I mean, I kid y'all not, like probably like 3 months, I was um, I was already doing what I do to train physically because I was already doing that to train for harder things. So my physical training was really good, but we dialed in like puzzle training, we dialed in math training, we watched the challenge like season after season. We'd pause challenges and look at them, and I'd tell him right off the bat, this is what I would do. This is my strategy of doing this challenge. This is how I'd run through it. He would then explain to me what he thinks he would do in that situation, and then we would compare them with other competitors on the show and their strategy to see how close we were, if we were on the mark, if we were off. We would pause puzzles before the competitors would do them so we could see if we could do them too. Um, we poured a lot into that. We focused on a lot of challengers' relationships. They're the people they're close to, any vendettas that they might have had in the previous years. We were looking at every possible angle perspective that we could potentially get uh, as I was getting ready to go on that season. It was really great.
So was being on the challenge what you expected? Because, as we know through the years, a lot of people who kind of shine on the show aren't those people who are just good at competitions. They're also the outgoing types. They provide the entertainment and the drama in the show. I think you were a great casting decision simply because I think the dichotomy between the types of people that have been on the show before as opposed to you, I feel like you are a really good counterbalance to that. So was it like you expected? Was the house like you expected? Was traveling, to all these different locations and being on site, did it meet your expectations?
Living in the house must have been easy compared to being in the Marines.
Right.
Yeah, dude, it was like it was similar to what I expected because I had watched so many. Like I will say in a very like general way, yes, it's what you expect, right? House, tons of people, uh, insane personalities. Jesus, the re like I don't know if you guys have ever gotten like been around like 30 reality TV personalities, but it is fucking chaos. I'm telling y'all. Um, but it was a little bit how I expected, but the things that caught me really off guard was like the psychological element of being there. Like create like trying to create it's a very fascinating social experiment, you know what I mean, like especially to watch it unfold, but you're essentially there, you're trying to have conversations with people and gauge if you trust them, but you have to do kind of like this light friend building in the beginning, right? You guys both know what you're going to, right? Like we should talk game, right? But you don't just want to come out with that because that
Right.
sounds kind of crazy. So you started off with like trying to be each other's friends and stuff, and then try to naturally bring it into this conversation and see if you trust each other. Sometimes you might trust each other, but you're just connected to so many people that you can't trust that this is going to work out in any feasible way. So even though you might like each other or even slightly trust each other, it's just not going to work because of the way the game's laid out. But I will say that the piece of it that one surprised me the most, and two was the most difficult for me was the psychological element to it, just being around a bunch of people who were you never knew was happening, pretty
Yeah,
much.
makes sense. So you early on you hit it off with Aviv. You end up being partners at first. So was it appeared to be an easy decision, but was it an easy decision to state the claim to save yourself from going into elimination with Aviv, or were you like, oh, maybe I should stick it out with Aviv? We probably would win the elimination. Talk us through that thought process there, that big decision for you.
Yeah, it was I'll say it was one, not only was it probably the hardest decision that I had to make all game, but it was probably one of the hardest moments that I had to decide to do and live through in my life. I mean, it was so so stressful, and the amount of pressure that I had to create for this moment to pay off was overwhelmingly large. Um, as you guys know, I've been working with Aviv all season, right? I started first partner. I was her. She was amazing. I loved her. She then cycled through a bunch of people. By the end, it was by the middle mark. It was actually like in my head, I was wanting to choose between her and Michaela. Michaela was obviously the highest performing woman. Um, and but I ended up choosing Aviv. She's just an amazing one. She's an amazing person. She's an incredible competitor, especially for I want to say her era. Um, there were a lot of vets this season that came in um, just in a different way than kind of like the rookies. I think like a lot of us in our generation are just super into fitness, super into health. A lot of us do a lot of things like this, somewhat in our personal life. And I think the vets, they have been conditioned through a different type of challenge, and they were also raised differently in this reality TV culture, right? Um, so when they came, like they already made a certain impression on me. It wasn't the most, I will say it wasn't the most, I wasn't very impressed with the impression that came to me from the veteran side, right? But not from Aviv, right? Aviv was incredible. And as a leader in like corporate America, as well as like a mother of two kids, she was able to still be able to hold her own with like a 26-year-old Marine at that time. I mean, that's fucking tough, right? So I was like, this girl's got fire in her. She also had the same mentality that I had that was like, I don't care who we go against in the final. We believe in ourselves so much that we want to get there. So then after all of that, it was really hard to make that decision because we were essentially like you were backed up into a corner, right? We were
Yep.
like there's nothing we can do anymore, right? We tried to plead our case with Nani, and she just didn't take it, right? And that's for her game, and I get that, and that is what it is. But once we were backed into a corner, um, Aviv was like, you should do this, and I was At first, I was like, I don't know about this. Definitely at first, I was like, probably not. I woke up that morning. She had talked to me about it. I was like, I probably won't. She didn't talk to me specifically about staking a claim, but she let me know for 100% that we're going in. And I was like, fuck, right? So I'm just like living a little depressed morning where I'm just like, oh, this sucks. I hate everybody. Um, but I ended up going to an interview later in that day and I talked to Sydney. Right, like my number one girl in this game right now. And she was like, "Did you hear what's happening?" I was like, "Yeah, I fucking heard what's happening. I know. I'm going in, right?" And she was like, "Are you gonna stake a claim?" And I was like, ah. I told her I was like, "I don't think so. One, because I don't want to be disloyal to Aviv. I've been planning with her this whole time. I never want to leave her. And then my second thing was I told Sydney straight up. I was like, I'm just fucking tired. I'm so psychologically drained from this game. I'm physically drained from this game. Like a lot of the competition happens very quick, so there's not a ton of time for you to physically recuperate fully.
Pretty much like a
Um,
3 day cycle and repeat, right?
yeah, yeah, and it just goes like that. So I was so tired, and I told her I was like, I don't know. I think I might just take my chances in elimination. And she was like, "You're not fucking tired. You are not fucking tired. You're gonna run up that fucking hill. You're gonna do it for yourself. You're gonna do it for me, and you're gonna do it for your mom."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Damn, you're right."
She
She like
got you
snapped
hyped
me out of
up.
it, and I was like,
We didn't
mm.
we didn't get to really see much of your run up the hill, but how long did the process take up and down with the puzzle?
Up and down was probably like 25 minutes,
Oh,
maybe
not
something.
bad.
It wasn't super crazy, dude. And yeah, as y'all saw, we started running, and Will was like, "Dude, maybe we should like run together. We can equalize this." I was like, that sounds stupid. Why would I want to do that? You were literally just about to chunk my ass into elimination. Why would I do anything for you? Um, and he was like, yeah, that's valid. I was like, all right, I'll see you up there. So I just continued to run and we got up there and that doing the puzzle at the same time was insane. That was super, super stressful. But yeah, I just ended up putting it fully together. And then I got that last piece that came in and I was just like, oh my
They didn't even show
God.
us on TV the puzzle at all. They just showed you were
I
taking
know.
it for up the hill, then you came walking back in.
I know, and I hate that because I wish you guys got to see a little more of that
Were you and Will
anticipation.
both there doing the puzzle at the same time?
Yeah, so I got there probably like 2 minutes before Will did. So this is how I explain it. I did like five renditions of that puzzle, right? It was a 3D box. I
Yeah.
did about five renditions. By the time he Will got here, I had finished two of them. So for the last like three, we were both sitting there putting them together, trying to figure them out, taking them apart, putting them back together, and then I finally got my third one. Um, and once I got my third one, I fucking chunked that puzzle to the side and I sprinted down. But when I got to the bottom, this is actually something that you guys are never gonna see, and I'm about to tell you about it. But when we got to the bottom, Will came down after and he was hot, y'all. I mean, he blasted my ass. He was
Mm.
chewing me up because he just came down and he was like, "You are a fucking cheating piece of shit." He said, "You took one of my puzzle pieces and you threw it into a riverbed next to where it was before you left." I mean, he was hot, y'all. He was tearing me up. And I'm over here like, what are you even talking about, dude? I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. This is did not happen. Whatever you're saying is completely false. All this kind of shit, right? And he was like, no, dude, fuck you. TJ is gonna run the tape back, and you're gonna be exposed for who you are. And I was like, this is insane, dude. I was like, you didn't even like ask me about this at all. You just started to go right into chewing my ass. And yeah, TJ lined us up, and he was like, dude, we checked back the tapes, and it turns out that Will, in the heat of the moment, when you got to your puzzle, you kicked one of your pieces out to the side.
Oof.
Um, and Yeremi ended up beating you hands down, and he did not cheat. And I was like, fuck you, Will. I was so hot too. I was just like, you are such a fucking piece of shit for that. Like, I was so hot. And honestly, that's why y'all saw me go into the nomination just so fucking didn't care because I had just gotten done with this idiot's fucking bullshit. So
Well, the thing with Will is he was probably still thinking back to the mini final when everybody did cheat, and that impacted you and him the head-to-head scoring on the partner picks. So that was probably in the back of his mind
yeah. And
after he
I get
lost.
that, you know what I mean? That mini final honestly was devastating for Will's game. That
Yeah.
sucks, right? It definitely sucks that that happened. And that was something that I realized during that mini final. I was like, um, this sucks, right? Not only did I get like second place for the rookie guys, like fifth overall or something, but none of us were getting any points anymore. We just had to go through all of that
For
shit
nothing.
for nothing. Um, and I thought about Will's perspective at that time too, because I was like, that I knew for myself and for him, the only thing that matters for that entire day was us beating each other. And
Yeah,
he beat
it
me,
was head-to-head.
and he beat me, and that was so real. And the fact that it ended up not only resetting everything, but working out in my favor versus his, I get it. That sucks big time. So I can kind of understand where that energy was coming from, and he did apologize after he said all that stuff. I will give him that grace, absolutely. But it was pretty diabolical when it was happening. I was like, "You're a fucking psycho guy."
So at this point, then in the game, you beat him, and then you could take like a deep sigh of relief. You're with the house moving forward. So in the challenge, you get to the finale. Was it more physically or mentally demanding than you expected, or was it a cakewalk compared to an ultra marathon?
Um, I will say it wasn't harder than an ultra marathon. I can say that. Um, but I think that it was. I think there are two different types of difficulties, right? Like an ultra marathon is just physically awful. It is very dark, and you're just wrecking your body into oblivion, right? But a final is just there's a lot that goes into it, and the most severe aspect of it is the psychological pressure that you feel from knowing where you are in this moment, in this experience, what you're needing to do. And there's a lot of times that not only in the final, but in the season that I was underestimating, I guess, the challenge. And I was like, in the final, there's a couple times where I was like, we're not going to do that. Like, we're not going to do that how he's saying we're going to do that, right? Like, he's saying it for TV. But we're not really going to do that. But we actually really had to do that. And in those times, I was like, damn, this shit does suck. Um, so I will say it was extremely difficult. It was extremely difficult. I don't want to compare them necessarily to an ultra marathon because I think they're very different things, but the final it is not something to play with at all. That shit was hard for sure.
So would you say overall, is it harder to play the challenge or harder to play the Amazing Race?
The challenge, hands down.
Hmm,
Hands down.
interesting answer.
I will say the race, the physical part of the race is, I think, harder than the challenge because
Hmm.
in the Amazing Race, sometimes you're racing for like 18 hours straight. And when you're racing, your adrenaline is so high that you're not thinking about food. You're not thinking about how tired you are. You're not thinking about the jet lag. You're not thinking about how much your back hurts from this huge pack. You're also not thinking about if you have to go to the bathroom or not, right? And your adrenaline is so high for 18 hours that once it's done, you come down in a huge crash. Like your body hurts a lot, like you can't really sleep because your brain is just thinking and dreaming of the Amazing Race challenges, so it keeps you awake. You wake up in night sweats. Didn't happen in the challenge, right? Didn't happen in the challenge, but the challenge, their overarching game, insurmountably harder than the race. Like Jesus Christ, it was so super tough.
Yeah, because you're less interactive with the other teams on the Amazing Race, whereas the challenge, it's more of the mental social
Mhm.
interactions.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right, right? Like if all three of us are competing in a challenge, right, and you guys win, then y'all win. Y'all bested me, and that's completely fine, right? I can live with that, right? But if I come up to you, Nick, and you've been my boy since day one, and I'm like, bro, like we're riding for each other, and you're like, hell yeah, we are. And then we get to a certain point, and I find out you were actually riding with Joseph the whole time and just backstabbing the shit out of me. And we're
Mm.
also talking shit about me and all your confessionals, and
Thanks.
then trying to tell the world that you
You're
weren't
talking about
doing
me
it.
or you're talking about Cedric?
Yeah, I'm talking about Cedric, bro. I'm just like that's crazy, right? Like you get that when you have to go, and it's that emotional aspect of it, right? Like you do get attached to certain people in certain ways, right? Whether you think they're your friend, a good partner, a good teammate, or whatever link you might have with them, all the conversations you feel like has built up your relationship, and then things like this happen. The emotional toll that they take on you is like, oh God, it hurts so much worse than losing sometimes.
We love Cedric. All right, so we were talking before about how the challenge stuff works in cycles, right? It's very, I guess, repetitive in that sense. The Amazing Race and the challenge, they have the travel element, right? And going on location and doing whatever, running is associated with the competitions and all that. So, there are similar elements, but in terms of a typical day on the challenge versus the Amazing Race, describe the differences between the both and what was easier for you. Was it being around everybody in the challenge house and being able to have a little downtime in between to go out, or was it the Amazing Race and just being there with your brother and doing the downtime with him?
That's a really good question, actually. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't even really thought about that before. And a typical day in the race is like you wake up at like 6 a.m. Your race time starts at 8, and yeah, you set up for the shot, and then they're like, all right, go. You rip your card off, you start reading it, and then you go on the floor. Your adrenaline spikes, and then it's just critical thinking back and forth until you finish it, right? Um, and that's the day right there. And your day's not done until you pass that finish line, and you are just hoping with everything in your being that you're not last, right? It doesn't even matter where you are, right? Like, if you're first, that's great. That had never happened to me, so I can't speak on that. So I can just say from the back of the pack, you don't want to be last. The challenge is drastically different, bro. I'm a fucking bear, so I wake up around like 10 a.m. Get up, go to the kitchen, make myself some coffee, go out, like sit outside by the pool, the nice view, you know, eat with some people, and there's so much downtime, right? You don't really have anything to do some of those days. So I'd play pool for a couple hours, I play pool, maybe go have another meal, a snack, maybe go hang out with some friends, maybe do a light little workout, take a shower, maybe cry in the shower from the psychological trauma you're under. And the entire time you just have, massive anxiety because you're like, oh God, it's just nice to chill. But then you're like, well, if I'm chilling, maybe some people are having a conversation that I don't
Hmm.
know about, and then you're like, well, maybe I should go around and check up on everybody and maybe talk to some different people, maybe have a couple game conversations. Um, but then there's that other element that's like, well, if too many people see you having too many game conversations, then they distrust you and then they can turn on you. So you have to juggle doing enough but not doing too much at the same time. Um, and I think that's what made the challenge like normal life so difficult. But I still think that probably a regular day in the Amazing Race was just much harder. There's just so much more you had to do.
So I think something that I would definitely not like as far as the challenge is concerned is the fact that when you guys go to watch these eliminations, you have to stand there for like hours. Like I got a bad back. I can't stand still for that long. What was like the longest elimination and what is it like just standing there on a platform? You can't sit. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, you are so right, bro. And I got a bad back too, dude. So I was definitely with you on that too. Um, I definitely didn't like that part. Like when the elimination is happening, you're up. You're right. There's no sitting down. You're super pumped. You're like,
Yeah.
let's go kill each other, right? Or just like hyping up your side or whoever you want to come back. Something like that. You and all the other players are speculating on like, oh, what do you think the strategy is on this elimination? Like, you think this person is doing what they're supposed to do? And sometimes it's crazy, but There's also other times where you're not doing anything and you're just standing, existing in the cold in the middle of the night. At one point, it was like raining, like sprinkling and raining, and it was freezing. It was
Yeah.
super, super cold. Um, really didn't like that aspect of it sometimes, and like I think there was one elimination we got there at like I don't know, I want to say like 9 p.m. or 10, and we didn't even leave until like 3 or 4 a.m.
Jeez. No,
Yeah.
we've heard stuff like that before. We've heard stuff going to 2:33, you know, into the middle of
Mhm.
the night. So that seems very typical. But again, I mean, my back is pretty okay. No offense, guys.
That's
But I
nice.
think I'd be all right standing there for a couple of
You
hours.
know, me and Yeremi were more like the tall, slender type, and
Right.
Joe, you're
Yeah.
the old school Yeremi, the meatball. So
That's what I say. It was tough though, y'all. It was tough.
for sure. So Yeremi, in your life, in your career, in your reality TV time, what would you say has been your you know I'm right moment? What I mean by that, a time or place where you wanted to pursue something, you asked somebody for advice, that person said, Yermi, sounds like a bad idea, you shouldn't do it, it's not going to work out. And you said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it anyway. And in the end, you will see why it is that I'm right about this. And I can tell you, I told you so.
Damn, that's awesome. I love that question, dude, and I will say that it was probably my last year of college, um, which was 2024, and I had finished the Amazing Race just the past summer, and I had to make a decision whether I was going to do the Amazing Race or do a real estate internship that I really wanted to do. I was in college. I went to the career fair. And just to be so real with y'all, I was such a fucking stellar guy in college. Like I was on the dean's list. I was killing it. I was like top of my class in all my classes. I was awesome. I was a role model in school, and I loved being in school. Um, so to get the internship uh, was amazing, and I was like, "Oh, this is what I want to do." Because at that time in life, I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna get a business degree." Then I'm going to get a salary paying job and I'm going to use that job to help myself start investing in real estate. I want to create a real estate portfolio so then I can eventually, um, get passive income enough to where I can just travel the world and I can do the things that I want to do, the life that I want to live, right? So that's what I was trying to work towards. And then this decision came to me and I was like, you either have to choose the internship or the race because the filming overlapped with the dates for the internship. And it was a hard decision to make because I was like, you're choosing two big opportunities that can change the course of your life. And I inevitably decided to do the Erasing Race because I was like, this is an opportunity that's once in a lifetime. Internships can come, they can go. But the Amazing Race, this might never ever happen again. So I decided to do that. Once that all finished up, I was in my last year of college and I was getting ready to graduate, and I I hadn't done that internship, so I didn't have a job lined up. And I was like, gosh, I kind of was in the middle of making a decision where I was like, you can either continue to pursue an internship and a place to work at after college and continue on that route, or you can continue going in on, I guess, I don't know I don't even know what to call it, like the entertainment arts industry sector route. You can continue to pour yourself into modeling. You can continue to pour yourself into reality TV. You can try to get into acting and you can see what that kind of life is like. Um, and there, for a long time, I was really stressed out about it. I didn't know how to feel and I was scared. And I was like, but that side is not, it doesn't have a safety net. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know when your next job's going to come. You don't know what life's going to look like. Um, but you can also travel the world while you do it. And that's what you want to do. I've never had a dream job. I've always just dreamed of being a world explorer. And I was like, you can graduate, you can do that. And you can give it a shot. And I was like, I think I'm gonna try and do it. And I started doing it. And for like the first 6 months. It was, I had traveled to like 6 countries in the first 6 months of graduating, and it was amazing, and I was getting it done. But after being a business school student as well as a Marine, I had this lack of structure, and it felt like kind of this lack of purpose, like not really a solid road or direction that I was going on. And I wasn't making any constant money like I did in school or having a job or even getting a job after college. And I was just like, it was really hard for me mentally to figure out like how to deal with that and also lead this life that I'm wanting to live. Um, and then the challenge presented itself to me and
Fell in your
invited
lap.
me to compete. And when that happened, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. This is my dream show. I love this show so much. And this would have never happened if I decided to take my internship, and I would have never been able to do it if
Yeah,
I took my internship.
there you go. Joe, does that relate to you at all?
It's
Sound
a
familiar
great
to your life
answer.
story?
You know what, Yeremi? We have to connect, whether it's upcoming, as of this recording, in Orlando in person. But personally speaking, try to make a really long story short. Nick and I have backgrounds in media. I'm currently pursuing a master's related to media and journalism. But recently, I ended up studying getting my executive MBA. I am licensed to practice real estate here in New York. I just posted about it
Yeah,
within the
so
last couple
now
of
all you
days
got
or
to do,
so.
Joe, is go on
Yeah,
The Amazing Race.
that's right.
Let's
I'm
Joe
gonna
go.
go
loves to
on reality
travel too.
TV.
Big
Yes.
time traveler.
Yeah, so there's a lot of
A lot of
shared,
synergies.
right, a lot of shared synergies here, a lot of interest. So we could talk about that more in time. But yeah, I mean, this has been really, really excellent. We thank you for your time. We really, really appreciate it. Loved watching you on the challenge. Gonna love watching you, whatever you do next. Hopefully your reality TV career continues. Hopefully you get some other stuff on the ground, off the ground. And like I said, we'll definitely connect and we'll do some more in time. Hopefully, we'll see you in person. But what we do here is we always give our guests the last words, and you've gotten a lot of really great stuff in already. But if there's anything else you would personally like to share, by all means, go ahead. And also, one last thing, where can we find you?
Awesome, dude. Well, I appreciate it. First of all, you guys can anybody who's watching and is interested in following my life, learning more about me, seeing what I pursue, and what my mentality and perspective is like, you guys can always follow me on Instagram. It's literally just my name, Yeremi.Hykel. Um, it's just about that name on every single platform that I have. I will say that I'm not super good at social media, though. I'm trying to get better. I'm working on it to
Well,
try.
that's what we're here for. We can help.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate it. I might need y'all's help because I'm trying. But besides that, that's where you guys can find me if you guys want to follow along and see everything that I do. Um, but besides that, Joseph, Nick, I appreciate you guys, one, being so flexible with having me on here. But two, I appreciate what you guys do, this journalism that you guys do, talking with us about how everything's going. That helps build this community into what it is, and that's one of the biggest reasons that I care to be a part of this community is because people like you guys create it into what it is, into the amazing fan and audience group that it really is. So I just want to say thank you to you guys and all the work that you do. And it's been a privilege for me to speak with you guys.
Yeremi, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Congratulations on an awesome first season of the challenge. Obviously, we'll probably see you on some more seasons ahead. So, congrats on the first season. And that's going to do it here for this episode of You Know I'm Right. For our very special guest, Yeremi Hykel.